Bonjour, bonjour, mesdames.
Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for this workshop, for this feedback, general feedback. I am Nicolas Arpagian. I am very happy to be working at Trend Micro. I am in charge of the cybersecurity strategy of the group. And today, I will be joined by Mathieu Vanos, security manager at Decathlon. Of course, he's on his playing field, but Decathlon is a global group facing production issues, distribution issues, e-commerce issues. So the goal of this workshop is to share our operational vision based on the technological reality of Decathlon. And so we are going to focus on the implementation of different security and safety measures that fit the context of Decathlon on the global perspective. So first, Trend Micro is a company specialized in cybersecurity. We've been working on cybersecurity for 32 years. There are a lot of actors trying to discover this new item, cybersecurity, but we are specialized in cybersecurity. $1.9 billion in terms of turnover, and we are ensuring all types of terminals like endpoints, servers, the whole company's architectures for small, medium, and global companies. Our specificities are that we have been working with different agencies like Interpol. If you have a look at the website of Interpol, you can see that we need technical features. We need to understand how attackers are working, and Trend Micro is an established partner for global agencies because we do have the technical expertise, and that's paramount because we are working in an evolutive environment with technologies evolving all the time. One other specificity, our experience, and I want to insist on this because it's very important to focus on innovation and regular and continuous innovation, so no peaks of innovation. We really want to continuously innovate within Trend Micro. And this is why, whatever the sizes of the companies, we have a renowned expertise on the global market, on the cloud, for example. So the goal is not to share too many figures, but we wanted to give you specific KPIs that are considered as the basis of the expertise in terms of cybersecurity measures. So first, the ambition of Trend Micro is to be present over time, every year. We have, for example, analysis on the cloud, on email security, and we also have detection measures so that we can control the whole technological chain, and we are very proud of this. And we've been working on the whole chain despite the diversity of different companies we've been working with. With regards to our knowledge, Trend Micro is the first contributor in terms of 5-0-day measures and vulnerabilities. I think you are all connected to the world of cybersecurity. 5-0-day vulnerabilities are an issue that companies are facing, and we don't have any files, any documents for this. And so our goal is to be able to validate those faults and to have a trusted partnership with the publishers to make sure that they are well aware of the vulnerabilities and so they can implement security measures. We don't have geographic preferences. That's why we really want to value the expertise of people working in that field, and this is vital. Why? Because we'll be able to document and feed in the protection measures if you want to talk about figures, because this is also a part of the vulnerability of the ecosystem. So we have a lot of actors present today contributing at their own level to the collective knowledge on zero-day faults. And this leadership is connected to the deep cultural and technological approach of the companies and the way we can involve this in the security measures that we are going to implement. So, of course, we had faults identified in Tesla, in Microsoft as well, and every month throughout the world, we organize events so that experts can challenge solutions in very diverse environments, the service world, the industrial world, the leisure and media world. The goal is to get the necessary expertise to fight back after those attacks. We have critical updates as well that can help us improve our system continuously. So one of the messages structuring this ecosystem comes from SIGREF. This is the organization gathering all the directors of information system of the main companies in France. That's a very important community. Why? Because it's a good representation of the volume of value creation. And this is really important for us to listen to their concerns. And the president of SIGREF talked about the problem of devices obsolescence. And it's very vital for us to support the companies to make sure that they can update their devices and material. I was asked to summarize the topic, and I think that the image is a good representation. There's something we can do, but we need to make a decision. We need to choose who's going to maintain the activity and who's going to unplug this system to better secure the system. We have the right environment, but the question is, do we have to do it or not? And in the majority of cases, we don't. And when we are at the head of a cybersecurity industrial company, how can we implement the solutions? Well, we'll try and answer that question. So today we'd like to focus on the experience of Decathlon. It's interesting to see the background of Decathlon and how they've been able to manage those issues. So Mathieu, you have now the floor. So I think you all know Decathlon very well. You all know the company. We have more than 100,000 employees throughout the world. We have more than 770,000 stores around the world and 400 million users. From an IT perspective, what's important is that we are a globalized company. We have started working with the cloud a few years ago, so we have partnerships with big actors in Asia and in Europe, and so it brings specificities and constraints. But so we are also very focused on innovation. So let's focus on our organizations in terms of security. We have a foundation, Corp. It's similar to a lot of companies. It revolves around the CISO and the CIO. We also have another pillar, which is risk management. What are the critical processes? What's the level of DRP that we are going to request from those applications? And we also have an operational team. We have 20 people on board of this team We have SOC, we have expertise around the cloud and project management as well. Simultaneously, we have created a network, a security officer network in the countries that can share our vision and can also share a feedback on the legislations in place. We have a lot of local legislations to take into account because we are present in a lot of countries. So this is the organization that was put in place on our side at Decathlon. So if you walk through the shop floor, you can see that there are different issues, different challenges, ERD systems, for example. So how did you make the decision when it comes to choosing the right tools for your IT systems? Well, we didn't have to choose between the ERD and XDR technologies because we hadn't developed any EDR solutions, so we decided to use the XDR solution from Trend Micro right away. So we were provided with this platform, and very soon we realized that this platform is very easy to use. We have a wide base of agents in our different workstations, and we also have a qualification of the incidents. In the past, we used to using antiviruses and older systems, and so we had alerts, we had detection rules created with the XDR platform provided by Trend Micro. The incident is already qualified, and we have a lot of information shared to our analysts, and we can save a lot of time. So how did you integrate this system in your SOC? It was a big challenge, I have to say. We decided to create a new SOC. We started from scratch. We decided to move on to an SAS system. We also decided to collaborate with a partner to get some support for 24/7 security measures because we're working in different countries around the world. We need to be active 24/7. We've also thought of a way to include this EDR system in the SOC and what will be the role of this XDR technology. The decision was easy to make. Endpoints and all the elements that could be included in the XDR platforms will be used, and then the OCM will then retrieve the attacks already qualified and will be also able to add more information coming from other sources, and then we'll be able to manage the attack and the incidents. So let's try to understand your mindset and the mindset of your teams. How did you select the solution and how did you deploy it and roll out the solution? So why did you decide to work with Trend Micro? We've been working with Trend Micro since 2018, I think, if I'm not mistaken. We've been working with them on the virtual patching part, like a lot of other companies. So despite obsolete systems and despite the lack of coverage for security systems, you were still able to take into account different layers of security. Yes. And with Trend Micro, we have zero-day vulnerabilities like X4G. We can have rules that we can implement that are provided by Trend Micro. We can implement those rules in 24 hours. And so we save more time. We have more time to organize ourselves, to implement the patches. This is one of the reasons why we've decided to collaborate with Trend Micro, because once we have rolled out this type of solution, it's difficult to work without it. And what we do really appreciate at Trend Micro is that we had a wide array of solutions, DPP solutions, EDR solution, XDR technologies, DLP systems. We don't talk much about it, but it's integrated within the system, and it's of high interest for entities such as Decathlon. Also, there is a high support. We have heterogeneous systems, ecosystems, we have Java applications, we have ERP environments, and so we have a lot of technologies to deal with. And Trend Micro is used to working with all of those ecosystems, and so we were able to work with them for all of our systems. We also really appreciated our partnership. We were really able to create a strong relationship with the commercial teams, with the VPs and the trend product managers. We were able to have a look at their roadmaps. We could also share some remarks that were taken into account, and they also adapted to our needs. And so it made it much simpler to integrate this solution into our system. We really enjoyed working with Trend Micro because of that, and we are trying to focus on this on the long run. On the XDR part, we also have incidents that are very well qualified. We don't have to reparameter the system permanently to be as performant as possible when it comes to the detection system. The Trend Micro system is updated very regularly, and the alerts are relevant with regards to what we could have feared when we started implementing this system in our platform. We also have innovative solutions. The virtual patching system, for example, I will not enter the details. We also have new initiatives like the new feature Risk Insight. With this feature, we can give a score to the different risks faced by the company, the assets, and we can then prioritize the security actions to be taken given the scores that are collected. And we have other sources of data that can be integrated in this tool, Risk Insight. And thanks to this technology, we can evaluate the risk faced by a user or a workstation. And this way we can, for example, identify patching issues, and we can raise awareness among the users if users do not respect the ethical charter that we have implemented. So how does it work within the organization? So this is the simplified architecture of our SOC. So of course we are using a lot of tools that are not represented here on this diagram. We have rolled out the EDR system on 50,000 positions. We also have a lot of servers on the cloud. So we have EDR functions that are provided by Trend Micro with the consoles, and the consoles also work with Vision 1, and with Vision 1, it's a console that we have integrated in our SOC architecture, and then we can share the incidents that are already qualified, and we can also share the data coming from Vision 1 and all the sources, and we can then enrich the database, and we can then use playbooks. We can send tickets to the operational teams if an operational team is affected, if we are also waiting for an action from the operational team. So you've talked about the geographical area. In terms of the agenda, how did you roll out the system? So we have separated the system into different batches. So we used to using antiviruses, of course. We didn't start from scratch. We had different phases of rollout. The first one was the cloud. Why did we decide to focus on the cloud? Well, because we were already clients of Trend Micro for the cloud system, so we decided to extend the system. We also decided to integrate Linux servers. So the advantage and the reason why we were able to take more time and spend more time on this phase is that thanks to the Word Cloud security system, we have a specific system and we can pay only for the servers that are rolled out. And so we were more flexible. We could, for example, decrease the number of assets. And so we know that the invoice will also be of a lesser amount. And so we were able to spend more time on this phase and not to go too fast. We had more flexibility. And then we had a green period. This is how we call it in Decathlon for receipts. And so we focus on this period from the beginning of October until mid-November. These were our deadlines because after that we are entering the red phase of Christmas. And then we started with the other two phases, SOC construction and workstation deployment. Those two phases took place simultaneously. We had to implement new IT systems, and from mid-February until the beginning of March, we focused on workstation rollout. We had a lot of concerns here because we were directly working with the users. This is a vital step for us because if the users have a bad experience when using a tool, we know that they will have some difficulties overcoming this bad experience. So what's really interesting is that you decided to recreate your SOC, so it was a big challenge, right? Yes. We really wanted an SOC with a strong EDR base. This rollout, this deployment of workstations, for example, went quite smoothly. We did not need a lot of resources. We have 2 people working on products within the security teams. And so if we share the security packages, they just have to deal with it. And then we had different batches. We had 10 workstations per week, I think, at some point. The users didn't have to make anything on their computers, even for MacBooks, even though it's quite difficult sometimes to manage those computers. And so it was quite smooth. We didn't have any bad feedback from the users. Good news is good news. No news is good news. There's also another constraint, the fact that you have a lot of alerts coming at the same time, a lot of detection rules implemented. And so how can we do not to become overloaded with alerts? It was one of our concerns when we started developing and rolling out the EDR system. We wanted to focus on the experience of our competitors and clients. We have designers, we had ITs, specialists, we had people working in the warehouses. So it's true that we have a wide scope of positions. So we were scared to be overloaded with alerts. We have seen how the detection systems of Trend Micro are, because we don't have a lot of false positive detections, and the alerts are generally very well characterized. So if it's a critical alert, it is a critical alert. And it's vital when you're an analyst to have a well-qualified and well-characterized alert. If it's a critical alert, you have to really take care of it. Our analysts are not overloaded with alerts, overwhelmed with alerts, and that's a good thing because we were able to talk with different integrators, and our concerns did not happen in practice. And what about new challenges, new indicators? For patch management today, generally the operational teams are in charge of patch management, and so we can use an indicator to see if there are any issue within the patch management teams. We can, for example, have a production issue in some country, and the machines in those countries can see their quality deteriorated. And even though we are not the ones patching the machines, we can still play our control role. We can say, for example, be careful because there is a problem in your production system. The machines have a deteriorated level of quality and level of security. And so did you become more autonomous? Well, what's really interesting in the console and the ecosystem that we've built around Vision One is that the security team is 100% autonomous. They can fully identify an incident, they can enrich the database, and they can also remedy the incidents. In the past, we had to ask the operational teams to give us access to an account to retrieve data. Today, with Trend, we control the machines, we can start the scripts, we can remedy the incidents, we can isolate the machines as well. And the teams can control the incidents from A to Z, and they are fully autonomous. They don't need teams to remedy the incidents, and that's extremely important because, as I said earlier, we have implemented an SOC 24/7. So we have collaborators and partners, and hopefully teams are completely autonomous because, and they have one tool only, and that's a must because we also need to train our teams, and so analysts level 1 and level 2 can be fully autonomous without having to ask for more people to join the team at night, for example, or during the weekends. So in the opening, you said that you had 60 countries using those solutions. So how did you implement those solutions in those 60 countries? Well, it was quite simple, I have to say. We are very lucky because we don't have subsidiaries. It's Decathlon everywhere, and it's a strength. It's a strength where we want to roll out such initiatives and systems. We can provide the packages to the agents, and step by step, the different countries will roll out the system. The agents will be deployed. We had one concern at the beginning because we had a short deadline, and so we had some concerns how we would react, for example, if we had some delays, but it went very smoothly, and everything went on plan.
And how many resources did you mobilize? It was like a lot of resources. Well, on the various scopes for the cloud part, we are organized as DevOps. So each team, if you wish, rolled out its agent autonomously. We were just animating the indicators. It required the ops in some teams, but it's not something that's quite heavy to roll out. And concerning the cash till, we had 2 people there who rolled out all the tills worldwide. And for workstations, it's about the same people. So each time we talk about 2 people working on the rollout of the agent. So it's a limited human resource requirement then, given the geographical footprint, because it covers the cash tails and so on. Well, we were ambitious in terms of rollout, and quite a few people were surprised that we would do that, and maybe we should see with our old suppliers. But the rollouts went rather smoothly, I must say. When we worked on this regional experience, you said the easiest would be to show people how it works. I mean, we have slides and we have the statements, but the video is next. Okay, here we go. So if you want to Decathlon, these are the platforms. You have to be a sports person. So I don't know, you have to press on the green button. So this is how we integrated the Vision One tool on all our SOC. We'll not just see Vision One in the demo. This is an incident that we generated. So here we are on the Vision One console. This is a very simple one because it only concerns one machine in one environment. And this is the next stage with the incidents in our XOR with the various types of information. Now the analyst is running the analysis and decides to launch some automated actions in XOR. And as we can see that in solving an incident, that's a workstation that we took as an example, in solving an incident and workstation instead, Trend Micro has various times and different places where it intervenes. The first element that you must say that the incident is already qualified and we consider it's a real incident. And here we launch a script directly via Trend Micro. So this script installs another agent which is essentially used by forensic teams and which allow us to give some information and an exact timeline, what happened on the machine, and all the modifications that may have happened on the period prior to that. So we can measure how compromised the machine is and also what were exactly the files modified and the impact on the machine. So that was the first step where Trend Micro intervenes. Then you have the scripts running and so on. The second phase where Trend Micro is used is on the isolation of the station, because we have a policy of taking zero risk. So for the moment that we have a critical incident detected, we decide to isolate that station. So the agent we installed to recover the timeline was downloaded. We already isolated that station, and with this data we obtain a timeline that we can see here. This is why I told you the whole of the information of what happened before the infection. This tool specifically is very useful for forensics. So we are beyond detecting and remedying an incident, because that's really what Trend Micro is going to give us. But it's really what happened on the machine to first get some IOCs that will allow us to get it from another machine, but also understand where we failed and could there be an impact that we saw only in the SOC. That was the short demo. Well, thank you. It's good because it concretizes the way the tool is going to be used and the way that it lives in the organization. The idea is that if you had any questions, comments, suggestions, you have enough time to express them. So I don't know whether you need to turn on the light, but if you just raise your hand, then we'll give you the floor. If you have any experience, if you just introduce yourself so we know who you are.
Alors sur les aspects serveurs, on
The interpreter didn't hear. Okay. Repeat the questions. What were the tools used for the rollout on our site? Well, for the server part, we don't unify it. We have puppets, we have hand installation, and then for the workstation aspects, we use Workspace ONE, which allowed us to roll out the packages on all our workstations. So the interpreter cannot hear the question, unfortunately. So hopefully the speaker will repeat the question. So the question was in the integration of the various resources. Well, actually, yes, when it's trend to trend, there's nothing to do, thank God. What we started working on is our data flows, to say that, I'll take the example of proxies. Is the proxy sent directly to Zscaler? Do we integrate directly in XDR, or do we go through another channel? So we are now connected, connections between our CM and the XDR to not duplicate the flows of data. So it's rather that method that we used. Today we don't have the email on that. It's a current affair at the moment, but our objective is to integrate new sources of data. We already have some, and the objective is to enhance it. There is a difference to point out, though, and we saw it as differentiating between Trend and other players in the market. Quite a few are just data well, and you collect everything, and then we create rules in XDR. It is not Trend's approach. Trend approach is more of a qualified environment, if you wish. They have partners they work with, and once this partner is integrated, it's done very easily. So it's an approach that's different, that we liked, because we don't have 300 people who can integrate lots of sources of data in a major data lake and then create events and rules and all that. So what we liked with our requirements and our scale is to have a tool that is more or less turnkey, in which you want to add a source, you just add a source. And then afterwards, there is the engine of Trend that provides added value. Any comments? Yes, at the other end of the room, please. So the interpreter is still in the dark and has no idea what the question is. So the interpreter will just take a sip of water. And wait for the speaker to repeat the question. So the question was to specify the architecture around that. Well, what we took as a decision from the start is that our CM will still be at the heart of our SOC for several reasons. First, it's not everything SDR. We can talk about WAF and other components who are processed differently. And then you have the whole concept of conservation of the log. You have some legal retention time. So all that was imported by the CM. And then you have the functional data of CMDB, for example, to enhance this data. So the CM for us remains the core and does much more than the CM. It's more of a data manager. So all the alerts that are notified by Trend, that are already qualified, go through the CM, who in turn is going to enhance that data to provide a maximum of information to our analysts and then sent to the XOR. So if I take the example of analysts, for example, that we have with the third-party company, they are only connected to the XOR. They get an incident that comes in. It's already been qualified. It's already enhanced. So they have the whole context of the machine. And from then on, they launch the actions. We want our analysts to be as efficient as possible. Therefore, they have access to Vision One and so on. That's not the point, but we want them to be efficient. So they have access to this XOR part, and from then on, they launch their playbook based on the data they've had and the enhanced data. And then the playbooks called Trend and other tools, but that's that method that we use, because we didn't want to have an XDR platform that's separate with a specific mode of operation and a CM on the other hand. We really wanted to have the XDR in the SOC and in this SIEM. Thank you. You have the floor. So the question was, did we think about optimizing or when we implemented the XDR? Well, yes and no, because we're more of a team that is recruiting, so we're growing very fast. But one thing is sure is that we want to automate. So the XDR today allows us to free some resources that we should have hired through the smart or the intelligence of Trend. So all the detection rules and all that we don't do. Trend does all that work. So they have they're much more specialized because they have a client database that are working on that. So there's a real optimizing, according to me, because the incident that comes in is qualified. And we, in the SOC, we don't need to create rules. We know that everything's workstation, everything's server is managed by Trend, and the incidents that come in are qualified. So we don't need to hire and recruit people to work on the endpoint part, on the detection rules and so on. Everything is completely in the hands of Trend Micro. So, on other scopes, well, in Vision One, the detection rules are driven by Trend Micro, and then in the products and the agents that we install, they are 100% customizable. So this is where we can play on our security policy on rules that we could add. But in Vision One and on the detection of incidents, it is not there that we customize or set up. It's an agent, but just any agent on the market, actually. You can put some cursors, you can check certain types of files, integrity documents, all that. That's in the agent on the servers, and therefore the setup is done there. Thank you very much. Well, we have some organizational constraints, so we fit within the time slot. So maybe last question, you started to talk about the next stage to optimize even further this equipment. Well, the challenges we have is to get more data to feed and improve the use cases. So that's the first element. The second element on which we're working is automating. And today, we have shown you a demo of what we do, isolate the station, install an agent, and so on. We want to go further and say, I have an incident on the workstation. I want the manager of that employee is aware of what happened, so he's working in the whole automation of an incident. So the analyst says, I have a workstation with incident, I click on a button, and there are so many elements that are created. That's a rather significant part of it. And then to explore, as I said, the features that come out, because Vision One is a live thing, the features every other week. So the idea is to, there's one that we're interested in, is the risk insight. So we wanted to consolidate and work on this. What we imagine is that based on the risk on the workstation, and not content ourselves with an integrity to have an updated virus and so on, antivirus, but rather to say, based on your behavior, based on the condition of your machine, we give you access to the whole of the IS or part of it. So there's a whole of use cases that remain to be created on which we are working actively. Thank you very much, Mathieu, for your testimonial and for being very sincere about the return experience, which is useful in cybersecurity, is to have this knowledge, mutual knowledge of practice in a company that is as evolving, as international as Decathlon. Thank you very much for your testimonial. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your interest. Of course, if you have any extra questions, the Trend Micro teams are on the booth, which is B29. Yeah, B29 is the number of the booth, and you can find this easily. And if you need to complementary illustration and deeper, we will answer with great pleasure. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you.